Today I'm going to show you how to query files using partial file names to get associated metadata from Power Automate to Copilot Studio. Let's get started. The document library my client wants to retrieve data from for the bot contains over 7,000 files. This library has already been added to the bot's knowledge source with a topic using the Create Generative Answer action. Currently, I can only return a single file without any metadata. Let's jump right into the workflow. One thing I like to do is to start with a manual trigger workflow to test everything out before moving to the workflow that is connected to Copilot. I forgot to mention the bot is already in a solution and all of the associated flows are in the same solution, making the flow to be easier to be found on the bot. And then I went back to the workflow. I was planning to use the get file properties only action using the filter query to filter by the partial name of the file name. You can see here using Copilot, it also asked to sort it by the last modified date on a descending order. After that is completed, we will test it. After everything is looking good, I added the action select to select the columns I was looking for. And in addition to that, I also added more properties. The select is complete with the columns that I am looking for. And then I also added view file. The view file is actually going to be the link to the file when the file is opened. And then the link property is going to be the filter query as if the user is searching that file name in the SharePoint search within that library. Right before the select action, I added the compose action for the prefix for the URL where we have the site collection / the file path to views and then Q equals to the link. What I'm doing is I'm concatenating the outputs of the prefix URL with the file name extension using the URI component function. So now our select action is looking good. We are going to go back to the Copilot and add an action. Try to create it from here. Sometimes I do see a delay in the flows popping up. After I have renamed the flow, I am going to paste those actions to this workflow. On the select action, there will be a little error. We just need to input 2 single quotes and then toggle the T and then toggle the T back again. And then we are going to add an input for the file name. The output will be a string output. I called it found docs. I tried to do something of the found document wrapped in a string function, but then it did not work out for me. So what I have found a workaround is creating a compose action right before it. And then on the output, it is referring to the compose action. And I forgot to mention the get files filter query. I have changed the hard-coded search term to the input from the trigger. After you have saved the flow, go back to Copilot Studio, select your newly created flow, and then edit your input description. The input description will help Copilot understand what the input context is and will use natural language to ask questions to the user of what that action is looking for when it is triggered. Same goes for the output. I saved the action and went back to edit the flow description. The flow description dictates when to trigger this flow. Give an example of what or how would a user would typically ask and provide details on what the input the user would like in a certain format. For the bot to trigger the flow without a topic, ensure this feature is enabled. I already have a topic that has a similar trigger description, so I am going to disable the topic and then restart the conversation. I forgot to mention that the flow will automatically use the run-only user connections instead of the service account. For this case scenario, I am going to change it to the service account and then restart the chat a couple of times so it wouldn't ask me to create a connection. It does take a while to come back with the answer because the flow run duration takes about 6 seconds due to the high number of files in that document library and the amount of files matches for this search term. If I change the search term to something more unique, the flow run and the bot response duration would decrease significantly. The bot has responded with the top 5 files of the array with the metadata created from the select action in Power Automate. What I really love about the response is at the end of the 5 files, the link to the SharePoint site is pointed to the URL as if the user has searched the terms on the document library themselves. Sometimes you had to tweak the input, output, or the flow description to get what you want for Copilot to ask the correct question to the user, display the JSON array in the format you like to communicate. You can even use the output of the flow as a knowledge source and have Copilot auto-filter depending on the prompt the user has entered. Sometimes you might even have to change the output mode and the send a message immediately after running this action checkbox. In my use case scenario, I wanted the bot to give the user the number of match files, but it caused an error message saying my output was too large. Then I ended up removing some properties from the select action in Power Automate, set the output mode to all, uncheck the send a message immediately after this action checkbox, and change my prompt to this. I know this is not a perfect solution, but at least we're going towards the correct direction. And there you have it. I hope this video is helpful. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell icon to follow for more updates.